Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling financial literacy, especially for young people. I was reading this article, Importance of Financial Education for Young People, a critical approach, and wow, it really gets you thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Financial literacy is one of those things that, we often take for granted, but it really does have such a huge impact.
Yeah, for sure. The article actually mentions that young people who have a good grasp of financial basics, they are 30% more likely to save regularly. That's pretty amazing.
That is a big difference, and it makes sense when you think about it.
Totally. So let's break down why this is so important. Why should young people even care about financial education?
Well, it's all about making those early decisions, right? Those decisions have a ripple effect.
Okay. So it's not just about balancing a checkbook today. It's really about setting yourself up for the future.
Exactly. Whether it's about choosing a career path or maybe thinking about owning a home down the road, all of those big decisions are influenced by how you understand and manage your finances.
Right. It's like building a foundation.
Exactly. And, even the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they're saying that financial literacy is absolutely essential, especially for young people trying to navigate today's world.
Oh, wow. So this is like a global thing, not just something we're talking about here.
Absolutely. The financial world is so complex these days. Think about it. We've got all these different investment options, online banking.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget about cryptocurrency.
Right, cryptocurrency, exactly. So young people really need to have the knowledge and skills to navigate all of that.
Yeah, makes sense. So the article talks about some benefits of being financially savvy. One that jumped out at me was this idea of responsible decision making. Is it really connected?
Oh, it definitely is. When you understand how money works, you're able to kind of weigh the pros and cons of different choices.
So it's not just about the money itself, it's about the decision-making process.
Yeah, and it helps you, make choices that are aligned with your goals, whatever those goals may be.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about things like avoiding debt traps? Those can be scary, especially for young people. Credit card debt, student loans, all that.
It's a huge issue, and the article really digs into that. When you understand things like interest rates and credit limits, it helps you use credit responsibly.
Oh, so it's not just about avoiding debt altogether. It's about understanding how it works.
Exactly. And that knowledge can really save you from a lot of, financial heartache down the road.
I see what you mean. Okay, now, here's a question I always have trouble with. Compound interest. I know it's supposed to be this amazing thing, but how does it actually work?
Well, think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill, right? It starts small, but as it rolls, it picks up more snow and gets bigger and bigger.
Okay, so it's like your money is growing on top of itself.
Exactly. The money you invest earns interest, and then that interest earns more interest, and so on. Over time, it can really add up.
Wow, that makes a lot more sense now. So is the key really just to start investing early?
Absolutely. Time is your best friend when it comes to compound interest. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
Okay, so that ties into another point the article makes about financial independence. There's something really appealing about that idea, being in control of your own finances.
It's incredibly empowering. Financial literacy can give you that sense of control and freedom.
Yeah, that feeling of not being limited by, financial constraints.
Exactly. It allows you to pursue your dreams, make choices that align with your values.
Okay, so far it all sounds really positive. But there have to be some challenges when it comes to actually implementing effective financial education, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. The real world is a bit messier.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the roadblocks we should be aware of?
Well, the article points out this pretty alarming statistic. Only 22% of young people between the ages of 15 and 24 feel financially competent.
Wow, that's a pretty low number. What do you think is contributing to that?
I think it's a combination of things. For one, there's a lack of standardized curriculums for financial education.
Oh, so it kind of depends on where you live and what your school offers.
Exactly. Access to this knowledge is really uneven. And even when financial education is offered, there's often not enough teacher training. To teach finance effectively, you really need specialized knowledge.
Right, it's a pretty specific area. So we've got inconsistencies in the curriculum and maybe some teachers who aren't quite equipped to teach it. Anything else?
Yeah, another big challenge is that a lot of the current financial education programs, they just aren't really resonating with young people.
What do you mean?
Well, they can be too theoretical, too dry, or they just don't address the real life concerns that young people actually face.
You mean things like budgeting for that first apartment or figuring out how to use all those online banking apps?
Exactly. There's often a disconnect between what's being taught and the actual needs and experiences of young people.
Ah, that makes sense. So it sounds like we need to bridge that gap, figure out how to make financial education more relevant and engaging.
Absolutely. And the good news is that there are solutions out there, things we can do to improve the situation.
Okay, so what are some of those solutions? How do we make financial education better?
Well, the article suggests a few strategies. One of the most impactful ones is making financial education mandatory in schools.
Oh, interesting. So like making it a required part of the curriculum, just like math or science.
Exactly. And we can look to countries like Australia and Canada where they've already implemented this successfully.
That's a good point.
Oh,
We can learn from what other countries are doing. And what about the role of technology? It seems like there's so much potential there to make learning about finances more, fun and accessible.
Oh, this is where I get really excited. Technology can completely revolutionize financial education.
How so? Give me some examples.
Think about interactive apps that turn budgeting into a game or online platforms that allow you to simulate investing without any real-world risks.
Oh, that's cool. So it's kind of like learning by doing, but in a safe environment.
Precisely. And then there's the potential of online communities where young people can connect, share tips, and learn from each other's experiences.
Okay, so we've got mandatory education, leveraging technology. What else?
The article also emphasizes engaging parents and communities. Financial education can't just happen in a vacuum.
So it's kind of like a team effort.
Exactly. Parents can model good financial habits, have open conversations about money with their kids.
Right, leading by example.
And communities can offer workshops, programs, even create partnerships with local businesses to provide mentorship opportunities.
Okay, so it's really about creating a supportive ecosystem where financial literacy is valued and reinforced everywhere.
Absolutely.
And one last thing. The article mentions something called promoting financial inclusion. What exactly does that mean?
That's a great question. Financial inclusion is about ensuring that everyone, regardless of their background or income level, has access to the tools and resources they need to manage their finances effectively.
Ah, so it's about creating a level playing field.
Exactly. It's about making sure that everyone has a fair shot at achieving financial well-being.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've got this World Bank study that found financially literate young people are 30% more likely to save regularly. That seems to connect to everything we've been talking about, right?
It really does. When young people understand the importance of saving, they're much more likely to develop healthy habits that will benefit them throughout their lives.
And those habits can lead to greater financial security, peace of mind, and ultimately a better quality of life.
Absolutely. It's about building a strong foundation for a brighter future.
Okay, so we've been talking about the benefits of being financially literate, but, in the real world, things don't always go perfectly.
Oh, absolutely. Life throws curveballs.
Yeah, it does. So does this article have anything to say about navigating those unexpected financial challenges? Like, what happens if things don't go according to plan?
It definitely does. It talks a lot about the importance of having a solid financial foundation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, things like building an emergency fund, for example.
Oh, right, the emergency fund. That's one of those things that I always think I should do, but I haven't really gotten around to it yet.
I think a lot of people feel that way, but it's so important to have that cushion for those unexpected expenses that pop up.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. So how much should someone aim for in their emergency fund?
A good rule of thumb is to try and save about 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about debt? It seems like everyone I know has some kind of debt.
It's a big issue these days. The article talks about the importance of managing debt effectively.
What are some of the key strategies for that?
Well, the first thing is to understand the different types of debt you have and the interest rates associated with them. High interest debt, like credit card debt, should be tackled first.
Oh, so not all debt is created equal.
Exactly. There are also different methods for paying off debt, like the snowball method or the avalanche method.
I've heard of those, but I don't really know the difference.
Well, the snowball method is where you focus on paying off your smallest debts first, and the avalanche method focuses on paying off the debts with the highest interest rates first.
Ah, okay, so it's about finding what works best for your situation.
Exactly. And the article also mentions that sometimes, it's helpful to seek professional guidance. There are credit counselors and financial advisors who can offer personalized advice.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can be overwhelming to try to figure it all out on your own. Okay, so we've talked about the emergency fund, managing debt. Now, going back to financial education itself, The article mentioned that in the U.S., there's no nationwide standard for financial education in schools. Only 17 states require it, which is kind of surprising, isn't it?
It is surprising, and it means that access to personal finance education really varies depending on where you live.
That doesn't seem very fair, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's a big issue that needs addressing. Without that nationwide standard, we're essentially leaving it up to chance whether young people will get the financial education they need.
Right, it shouldn't be a matter of luck.
Exactly. We need to make sure all young people, regardless of where they live, have access to this essential knowledge.
So how do we do that?
Well, the article talks about the need for advocacy, for pushing for mandatory financial education in all schools.
So we need to make our voices heard, let our elected officials know that this is important to us.
Absolutely. We can also raise awareness in our communities, talk to our friends and family about the importance of financial literacy. Grassroots movements can be really powerful.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's about creating a groundswell of support, making it clear that financial education is a priority. And, it's not just about schools, right? We talked earlier about the role of technology.
Oh, absolutely. Technology has such incredible potential in this area.
Can you give us some examples of how technology can be used to enhance financial education?
Well, think about those interactive budgeting apps we were talking about earlier. We could be using those in classrooms.
Oh, yeah, that would be much more engaging than just reading from a textbook.
Right. And there are also platforms that let you simulate investing. Students could learn about risk and return without actually putting any real money at stake.
That's a great way to make learning more hands-on and fun.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's virtual reality and augmented reality. Imagine students being able to step into immersive virtual environments where they can practice managing their finances in a safe and realistic way.
Wow, that's taken things to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got advocacy, technology, but what about parents and communities? What role do they play?
They're essential too. Parents can reinforce what kids are learning in school, model good financial habits at home, and have open conversations about money with their children.
Right, it's about creating a consistent message, showing kids that financial literacy is important in all aspects of life.
Exactly. And communities can offer workshops, mentorship programs, partner with businesses to provide real-world experience. It really does take a village, as they say.
So it's about creating a supportive network that goes beyond the classroom.
Absolutely. It's about building a culture of financial literacy that touches all aspects of a young person's life.
Now, earlier, we touched on the idea of financial inclusion. It's a concept that I think deserves a deeper dive. Can you tell us a little more about what financial inclusion looks like in action?
Sure. It's about addressing the systemic barriers that prevent certain groups from accessing financial services and opportunities.
Can you give us some concrete examples of how that's being done?
Absolutely. There are organizations that are providing microloans and financial literacy training to women entrepreneurs in developing countries.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not just about providing financial assistance, but also empowering people with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed.
Exactly. There are also community development financial institutions that are providing affordable housing loans and financial counseling to low-income families in underserved communities.
So they're helping people achieve their dreams of homeownership, while also making sure they have the support they need to manage their finances responsibly.
Precisely. And there are countless other examples of organizations and initiatives working to promote financial inclusion in creative and innovative ways.
It's really inspiring to see people coming together to tackle these challenges. Okay, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to bring it back to you, the listener, for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the benefits of financial literacy to the challenges we face in making it more accessible and effective. But what really resonated with you?
What stood out to you as particularly important or thought-provoking?
Take a moment to reflect on what you've learned and how it might inspire you to take action, whether it's making a small change in your own financial habits or advocating for change on a larger scale.
We'll be back for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some practical steps you can take to continue your financial literacy journey.
Welcome back, everyone. I don't know about you, but those examples of financial inclusion really got me thinking. It's amazing what people are doing to help others.
It is, isn't it? There's so many incredible initiatives out there really making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. And it kind of brings us back to that core idea, that financial knowledge, it's power.
Absolutely. When people have that understanding, that's when they can make those informed choices, right?
Exactly. Build that solid foundation for their future and even help create a more just and equitable society.
That's the big picture.
It is. Okay, so we've talked about the why, the benefits, the challenges, and even some amazing solutions. But let's get practical. What can our listeners do, starting today, to really take charge of their own finances?
That's the key question, isn't it? And I think sometimes people get a bit intimidated, by the whole world of personal finance.
Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming.
It can. But the thing is, you don't need to become an expert overnight. It's about taking those small steps, those manageable steps.
So where would you recommend starting? What's a good first step for someone who's, maybe feeling a bit lost or intimidated?
Honestly, I'd say start with a budget. Just create a simple budget.
Okay, so get a handle on where your money's actually going.
Exactly. Figure out your income, your expenses, see where you might be overspending.
And then make some adjustments. Start making those more conscious choices.
Right. And there are so many tools out there to help you. Apps, online resources, but even just a simple notebook can do the trick.
Yeah, doesn't have to be complicated. Whatever works for you. And I've heard different people have different methods they prefer, like the 50-30-20 approach.
Oh, yeah, that's a popular one. 50% of your income towards those essential needs, 30% for your wants, and then 20% towards savings and debt repayment.
That's a good framework.
Okay.
And then there's also that emergency fund we talked about earlier.
Ah, yes, the emergency fund. That's crucial.
How much should people aim for in their emergency fund?
Well, the general recommendation is to have about 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses saved up.
Okay, so that's a good target to aim for. And then once you've got that emergency fund squared away, what's next?
Well, that's when you can start thinking about investing.
Investing. That can feel a bit daunting for some people.
It can, but remember, it's about long-term growth, not about getting rich quick.
So do your research. Understand the risks involved.
Right, and you can always seek guidance from a financial advisor if you need help. There are lots of resources available.
Okay, so we've got budgeting, emergency fund, investing. What about mindset? Are there any, mental shifts that can help people on their financial journey?
That's a great point. I think one of the most important shifts is moving from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
So instead of focusing on what you don't have, focus on what you do have, the possibilities.
Exactly. And also, it's helpful to view money as a tool, not the end goal itself.
So money is a means to an end, a way to achieve your goals.
Right. Whether those goals are financial, personal, or, maybe even philanthropic.
Okay, that's a really powerful way to think about it. So we've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have the importance of financial literacy, the challenges, practical tips, even inspiring examples of change.
Yeah, and as we wrap things up, I want to come back to that statistic about young people feeling financially competent. It's a reminder that we still have a lot of work to do.
We do. And it starts with us.
Exactly. So what can you, the listener, do today to make a difference? Maybe share a financial literacy resource with a friend, talk to your kids about money, or even just take a few minutes to review your own budget.
Every little bit helps.
It does. Remember, financial literacy is not just about numbers. It's about choices. It's about security. It's about building a better future.
Absolutely. It's a journey worth taking, and we're all in it together.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring.
Until next time.